So, welcome, friends. Today is the 5th of July. It's actually the end of the 4th of July, and on Friday evening in the U.S., here on Saturday morning in Thailand. It's a nice day. We've got a good crowd of about 10 people on, 11 now. And today, I would like to talk about something big. Now, that's a pun, and you'll understand what I mean by that. Something big that, in fact, what we will talk about is how bigness is trained into us from childhood. And we always are looking for the big. And so you probably heard the Latin phrase sunum bunum. It's Catholic. Ben, have you heard of the word sunum bunum?
Only when you've mentioned it in previous videos.
Oh, really? I've talked about it before. Okay. Rick, how about you? Have you heard of sunum bunum?
I have not.
That's very, very interesting because it runs your life. Okay, so what is the definition of sunum bunum? Does anybody know? Potato, do you know what the word means? You're from Brazil, so you ought to know from being Catholic. No, wait a minute. It's Red who is from Brazil.
No chance. My Catholic formation didn't give me that definition. Was not deep enough, I guess.
Okay,
I can guess.
maybe you'll recognize it as the highest good. It's what Christianity is based upon. What is the best? What is the highest good? And that we have been trained into that. And so I thought that we would talk about it today. We're already in a conversation with Karwan, who hasn't joined us yet, about sex, and that turned quickly into that sex is really not the issue. The issue is that sex is promoted as one of the highest goods, and that to get started, I would like to talk about it from a perspective of Achan Po, who is now, even though he's 94, he's still the abbot emeritus of Wat Suan Mok, and that he became a monk at the age of 6. Now, he was a Samanin, and then later at the age of 20, he was fully ordained. But one of the qualities that I would like to talk about is that he was never introduced to sexuality. It was just never brought up. It was not a topic, and therefore he had no problem with it because it didn't exist. And yet everyone here on this Discord today, as well as everyone that you'll ever meet, has been indoctrinated as that sex is good. Now, if you can look back at the time when you were about 3 years old, and you can see this in our society if you're around young children, that boys collect around and play with boys, and girls collect and play around with girls at the age of 3, and they separate each other as if the other group was somehow bad, disgusting. Do you remember that? How about you, Scott? Welcome. I'm glad to see you. Do you remember, or do you have seen
Yeah.
that
I
about?
remember. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
okay.
remember girls have cooties. Girls have
Oh.
cooties.
Yes, I've heard that one too. How about you, Rick?
Yes, for sure.
Yes.
Like we have some sayings in Dutch where it's basically like if you tease girls, you'll get kisses, and it's presented as a very bad thing.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so young kids have the idea that sex is nasty. The other group is nasty. Now, I would like to introduce a little bit of Freudian psychology here, mostly development psychology. Now, Freud has gone up and down in popularity since the 1950s. He was down in the 70s and then up and back and forth. But one of the things that he worked with has been a hallmark of psychology is what's called developmental psychology. And they start with oral, anal, and phallic, where oral, anal, and phallic, oral is actually, let us say, prenatal through natal up through about a year old or a little, maybe 18 months. It's before the baby starts walking. And they call it oral because the child's whole world is around sucking. Sucking tits, sucking this, needing, completely unable to take care of himself. But then he moves into the anal stage. And the funny part about the word anal is because the child generally, that's his first introduction into personal ego. And we can call it when the child becomes an asshole. They also call it little tyrant, the terrible twos. And this is where the child first begins to understand that he and his mommy are separated. They're not the same. And that he's got his own ideas and his own plans. And then this third stage, the phallic stage, is when girls have cooties and all of that. In fact, we think of it as phallic as if it was sexualized. In fact, it's anti-sexualized. And then the child goes into the fourth group that they call latency, which means the child is not interested in sex one way or the other. This is about the age of 5 or so, up until about the age when sexuality kicks in. Now, when I say sexuality kicks in, let's look at it from the perspective of socialization as opposed to biology. That we've already established with Achan Po is that he was never sexually introduced. And because of that, he never had an issue with it. It was non-existent to him because it was never pressurized. However, as Scott will point out about the girls having cooties, you probably, if you remember from that time, that the adults would come back with snide remarks like, "You'll just wait and see, ha ha ha. You'll get over that." Now, what that means is that's introduction to that push-pull, right and wrong, highly good and highly bad. And that we then in our culture begin to see things as one or the other. And that when a child goes into puberty in our culture, our culture is highly sexualized. Now, when I say the culture is highly sexualized, I'm not talking about modern culture. I'm talking about ancient culture was, in fact, highly sexualized, all the way back to, at least in the sense of being primates, where I just posted a video about Russia and the hierarchy that I would call, from being in South Carolina, the old boys club. but the person who was doing the interviewing didn't. She actually mentioned it in passing, but didn't go into it. The fact that our sexualized culture started before humans when we were baboons. That baboons or gorillas are highly sexualized by their culture, not by biology. And yet when we're teenagers, we begin to think that it's all biology, but look at how the teenager is bombarded with sexuality. The girls are bombarded with clothing and makeup and prissy and a lot of stuff like that, to where the boys are bombarded with being a tough guy, being big dude, part of the clique, etc., like that. And so we divide the world into this sexual duality. Now, one of the ways that it's promoted is by the culture. Well, actually, let us say big business makes a huge amount of money off of this. If they didn't, nobody would buy any makeup. It doesn't matter. And so here we are practicing the teaching of the Buddha to come out of that duality. And yet we all come out of it, let us say we go into it from this perspective of what is the highest good. An example of that would be big bucks, big money is the highest good. Being powerful, being the alpha male is good. Being pretty for women is the highest good. We're always looking for the better and the better and the better. And we always wind up being disappointed. This is, in fact, where the disappointment comes, is because of that duality. Now, remember that the Buddha taught, in fact, we could go to the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the first sutta that he taught, the first thing that he mentioned to his group of 5 was the middle path. And you've heard me talk about it in the sense of don't take sides. Well, the not taking the sides is not a matter of taking, let us say, the American versus the Russian, or the Democrat versus the Republican, or this country about that country, or this religion about that religion, but rather we're talking about the sides that we have built into our own mental state from culture. That culture builds in these two opposites. An example of that is alcohol. Teenagers are, let us say, not able to handle alcohol. So instead of being taught how to handle alcohol, they're forbidden to have alcohol. Now, forbidding it makes it the forbidders make alcohol illegal and bad and whatnot, but that just turns it to the opposite. Oh, the teenager's now missing out on something. All the adults can do it. Why can't I do it? And so by making it illegal, they actually put it into that positive spin. That negative and positive always work that way. And so I actually had a friend in high school. I was 11, 13 maybe. And I remember we were driving down the road where his dad was drinking a beer while driving, and gave a sip of the beer to his son, my friend. And I thought that was so strange, because I had been trained the other way, that alcohol is forbidden to children. But upon reflection of that, that was probably the right thing to do, is to give the child permission to have a sip of beer, so that he doesn't get himself into the state of wanting it and going out at night and getting drunk with his friends, because it's got some higher good built into it. That if the dad gives him a sip of beer, then that means that it's just ordinary. It's middle path. It's not a big deal. And yet we make a big deal out of alcohol. We make a big deal about sexuality. We make a big deal out of love. We make a big deal out of money. We make a big deal out of everything. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today, is the fact that we make a big deal out of things, and sex is just one of them. Now, if we could live in a society and grow up in a society where the adults around the children never made a big deal about anything, then the kids would grow up not making a big deal out of anything, and then we would have a happy, healthy society. But the fact is that our socialization, by looking for the good, looking for the highest good, wanting something better and better, that whatever we've got now is not good enough, we wind up by being disappointed. And because we're disappointed, we swing back into the negative. So this is where unhappiness comes from. Unhappiness comes from the delusion that there is good in the world. Let me repeat that so that you understand. Unhappiness comes from wanting things because we want things that we think are good. And because we have this good-bad duality built into the mind, we look for the good, are repelled by the bad, and yet get stuck into the bad because whatever good we have is temporary, fleeting, never satisfying. That happens certainly within sexuality. The example that I would use without getting too raunchy is that look how much preparation goes into it. The first introduction, the meeting, the getting to know one another, the night out on the town, followed by, let us say, a lot of dancing around an issue, culminating in a very, very short experience. And then the guy and the gal both go away from that experience being kind of disappointed, thinking that, oh, well, sex has got to be a whole lot better than this. And so then they go around looking for better and better sex. Oh, if the girl is all really, really beautiful, then the sex will be better. Or, oh, if the guy is a really macho man that'll protect me, then the sex has got to be better. Then, in fact, we wind up being disappointed with sex and yet keep thinking that it's one of the highest goods. Scott, have you ever had this kind of experience, thinking that this pussy is not good enough pussy? There's got to be magic pussy.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely you hit the nail on the head there. That you always want better, always want more. It's never good enough. Yeah.
Mhm. How about you, Mr. Ben?
Quite satisfied.
Yeah, I was asking about, have you ever been in the position of after it's been advertised and you do it, you get disappointed. It wasn't as good as you had hyped up for it to be.
Yeah. There's not much to it, really.
It's really, once you get some wisdom into it, sex does not crack up to the way that it's supposed to be. Does anybody have any disagreements or any questions or any problems with this? Because this is an important point that we can recognize is that sex is not what it was advertised to be. How about you, Mr. Potato?
Yeah, I kind of, for me, I understand what you're saying, but it's almost like a leap of faith to, um, to practice enough to weaken those habits. And like, for example, I've been practicing and giving myself moments of peace, but I also have moments in my life where I reinforce those habits of sexuality. And I've had enjoyable experiences, so that's why I don't see that it's fully something that I have to discard because it's not of value.
Now, first off, you've gotten ahead of me. You've gotten ahead of where we're talking about. So let's talk about what you're talking about a little bit later. Let's go back to the original question of, have you ever been in a position of being disappointed because it wasn't as good as you had hoped that it was going to be?
Yes, but I don't blame that on sexuality on itself, but on circumstances that, in general, circumstances can be disappointing.
Right. But in fact, the advertisement of on television, in the newspapers, in the movies, especially in the movies, in the news, in fact, the churches contribute to this mightily. Dressing up in your Sunday best, etc., like this, as well as having that push-pull that sexuality is promoted to be one of the highest goods. And yet we wind up being disappointed. It's not as high. And so when you meet a new person, you'll say, well, maybe this time it will be as good as I thought it was going to be. So, CB, how
Yeah, I
about
don't.
go ahead, Potato.
Well,
Go ahead.
yeah, I don't buy into that, but it's also like I don't discard sexuality as an element that forms part of my life, but not as the highest good as you're saying. Yes.
Yeah, it runs your life. That how many people, in fact, think of it as when it comes up, you got to pay attention to it. So, Anna, what would you say? Have you ever seen that sexuality, in fact, is not as good as it's advertised to be?
I don't know. Maybe I'm too old, but sex is nice. But I
You
don't
were not
remember
old all the time. You've been through it.
I don't remember in the 80s and 90s a lot advertisement about it. It was somehow middle ground, especially in Soviet Union. So I don't know. I didn't expect much because it wasn't much advertised in when I grew up. But like, yeah, I mean, but
Okay,
it's
so
not. It's like I would agree with Potato, right? It's like it's not the highest good, but there's nothing wrong with this. It's nice. But this is
right.
all expectation I had. I remember I didn't expect bigger. Maybe it's a different. I grew up in communist, still in communist place, so maybe it
Where
wasn't really
everybody dresses the same, I guess. Is
kind of
that?
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
right.
and
That's
it wasn't much movies about it, so it's not something big. It wasn't something big, and when I was
right.
teen,
So
so I kind of made it easier, I guess.
So the itsy bitsy teeny weeny yellow polka dot bikini was not an issue in Russia. Believe me, it was a big issue in South Carolina back in the 1960s. So as you're actually pointing out now, that it depends upon the culture, that sexuality is actually a cultural influence on people, rather than just letting it be there. So we wind up being sex is good, it's the ultimate, I gotta have it, and sex is bad and I gotta stay away from it. And with that mentality, people come to the teaching of the Buddha. And with the teaching of the Buddha, they see that the monks are, let us say, those 3-year-old boys, they stay in the corner and call the girls having cooties. Not, in fact, they don't even say anything. But then people will say, well, wait a minute, sex is so good, it's so great, I couldn't possibly do without it. And yet the mentality is that that's a cultural influence. I actually remembered one time, maybe 4 months after I was a monk, and walking down the gravel road barefoot, crying with the thought, I'll never get laid again. Because I still had that mentality that sex was the highest good. But if we can recognize that it, like everything else, is best left at the middle path, so that it's not bad and it's not good, but it has to do with an opportunity. And if the opportunity is not there, then that's okay. But don't expect it to be the end of the world, the best thing that ever happened. Because that's an idealistic position that we are normally given in our Western society. Scott, I imagine that you were trained like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but like my parents would sort of like demonize it or make it something like taboo that you can't have sex before marriage. That's a big no. Like that's an absolute bad thing to do. So it makes you want it even more because there's so like the religion, the going to church and the religion makes you want the forbidden fruit, want what you can't have. At the same time, being told it's bad. I'm watching all these movies and all these things where it's like getting laid is what the point of life is like, so they literally come at both. I'm being conditioned by both sides to saying, oh, this is literally the highest good. Oh, getting with beautiful women, having all these women. Oh, you're in the rap song, you have the money, you have the women, you have the power. That's all that really matters, is getting the woman. And like, and then they're saying, and then the other side is telling me, no, that's the worst, that's the most dangerous thing ever, and that's really immoral or something. There's something really moral about it. So the two extremes create this very unhealthy relationship with
Yes, it's
sex.
very,
And
very unhealthy, and it's
yeah,
the two extremes to where there's really
right,
no place in the middle. It's not taught. It's
right,
and so if we can understand that about sexuality, we can begin to understand that that's the normal teaching. That's the normal teaching about alcohol, is creating this duality between, oh, it's terrible, oh, it's bad, oh, you'll wind up being a skid row bum or drunk, and oh, it's the best thing there is. You got to get a
right,
cognac. You got to get a really expensive bottle of whatever. uh, and so you wind up then with things like vodka advertisements. Oh, it's got to be the best Russian vodka. In fact, what vodka is that they take as much of any and everything out of it as they possibly can to make it actually pure alcohol. And that's just a distilling process. That actually almost all of the whiskeys and cognacs and all of those things that have various labels to them is by adding something back in to the alcohol. But alcohol is just alcohol, and yet they'll advertise it as, well, ours is the best alcohol. We did our alcohol with ice or whatever like that. So you can see that duality in alcohol. You can also begin to see that duality everywhere. Now, this duality actually is in the Bible. Buddhadasa had the opportunity of seeing the Christian Bible in Thai language without ever being around Christians. He was around a few Muslims. There were a few Muslims in southern Thailand around at that time, but there were no Christians. So he could read the Christian Bible from an absolutely brand new perspective rather than from the Christian perspective. And that he ran across the story of Adam and Eve, and he came out with a really brilliant understanding of that. That most people think that that the story is about talking snakes, and the woman did it first, and God threw them out of the garden because they broke some law or some rule or something. But if you look closely, what it's all about is that they ate of the fruit of knowledge of good and evil. The knowledge of good and evil is this extreme of very, very bad is evil, or it's the highest good. And that's what threw Adam and Eve out of their paradise, was because they went into extremes. That before they had that knowledge, which in fact is a form of ignorance, then they were okay. And so this is how we begin to understand the teaching of the Buddha, is to come to this middle path of everything is okay. And yet we come to this looking for it in escaping hell and finding heaven, looking for the two extremes. And the teaching of the Buddha is, in fact, the middle path. It is not an extreme between the very, very high and the very good and the very, very low. And so people will come and say, well, wait a minute, what about jhana? Isn't the first jhana really wonderful, and the second is even more wonderful, and the third jhana is even greater than that, and the fourth jhana, whew, that's the very best. How many of you have been introduced to the jhanas in this perspective?
Yeah. Spiritual attainments. Like
Attainments,
they
exactly.
attainments. People talk about, oh, you can get your tooth pulled out and not use anesthetics, or like you can just like be totally in a supernatural state of like bliss all the time, I guess. I don't know. Some kind of
Supernatural
lofty.
Lofty,
Yeah.
supernatural bliss, exactly. This is, in fact, comes from Hinduism, and it is in all the religions, the highest good. And this is not what the Buddha taught. He taught about dukkha and dukkha nirodha, to see the dukkha and to come to an end. And surprisingly enough, seeking the highest good is always dukkha, because you'll never find the highest good. It's overly advertised. Bliss is really over advertised. It's too much. And so people will have a spot of bliss, they'll be blissed out, and then the next thought they'll say, wait a minute, I want more bliss than this. This is not good enough. I want more. More. Buddha, come back. We're always wanting something better and better and better because of this childhood training that we have had about the very best and the very worst. This duality that we have been given in childhood, then you can see that in fact influences everything. How about power? The guys want power. Why do they want power? Power so that they can get their way all the time. That's good, huh? Get your way all the time. And so we wind up having governments and kings and mafia bosses and all kinds of people, Putins, Trumps. They're all wanting power. But who have you ever heard of in history that had enough power that it was enough power? Or is it that they always want more power? So religion does that to you. So does our culture. it teaches us if power is good, more power is better, and the ultimate power is the ultimate good. The same thing is with money. You can't have none at all. You need a little bit. You need to eat. Even the Thai monks have a little bit of money, but that's the middle path, the little bit. A dab will do you, just enough. But money, actually, in our society, means power. And so we mistake power for money, and now we go after money. An example of that would be that Elon Musk has been advertised for the past couple of years as being the richest man on earth. If he was that rich and rich was all he wanted, then why is he dabbling in politics? Why is he wanting that power too? And the other point about the power is that if you have power, you have more and better access to magic pussy. And so you can see all of those things, money and power and sex and all of that is always based in this duality of the very good, or if you don't have the very good, you're depraving, you're depressed, you're sad, and you're not good enough. And so we all then come to Buddhism with this duality mindset, thinking that, oh, the highest good is going to be in this religion. The highest good is going to be in Buddhism. Let's look at what the highest good in Buddhism is. And so we start looking for attainments. We start looking for this and that, and the other thing gets better and better and better. And so we wind up actually moving in our practice very slow. This is why I teach the way that I do, is to be good enough, to be happy enough. Don't try for extra super duper with cherries on top bliss, because you'll wind up being disappointed. Hello, Ivan. You came in at just the right moment. I was about to talk about you. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it is amazing. What is it about?
Yeah, it's called serendipity. Okay, so we have been talking about the duality of the highest good winds up being disappointing. And so you were asking about the first jhana. So the first jhana is, in fact, the middle path that the Buddha talks about is it's good enough. It's just good enough. What do we mean by that? That means that we have sukha. What is sukha? That means that we're not afraid, that we're safe, we're secure, we're comfortable, and we're satisfied. And then everybody says, wait a minute, I don't want satisfaction, I want bliss. I want the best, I want the highest stuff. Wow, first jhana is not good enough for me, even though he may just touched it. Even though he hasn't been practicing long, as soon as he gets a little bit of first jhana, what does he want? More, more, more. And so he says, okay, I'm going to get to second jhana. Let me work really hard and I'll get to second jhana. And then when we get there, I want more, more, more. Nothing is ever good enough. I want better and better and better, you see. Why is that? It's because the new student to the teaching of the Buddha is caught in that duality trap of the extremes. And so let us look at it this way. Suppose that you have a very, very long ladder that's reaching up to the side of a tall building. The ladder is tall, but when you get to the highest part of the ladder, it's still not tall enough to reach that window. And so now we're standing at the tippy top of that ladder, reaching and grabbing, and then we fall off. That's the way that we do with sex. We're up to the tippy top of that ladder, and then we fall down because it wasn't good enough. We didn't reach that final goal. It's too high. And so if we can understand that money, power, sex, and all of the other, how about supremes in sports? Scott, you're actually quite good at that in the sense of you've been even a rep, okay? So you look how much disappointment and unhappiness there is, and the better a kid gets at the sport,
Yeah.
the more unhappiness he's going to have.
Yeah, it's true. It's true that the sports bring a lot of misery when you don't win the game, you know, you don't win the big game. You know, you become miserable because you wanted to win so badly. Like
Exactly. Good. Yeah. All right. Let's use another example. How about movies, or let us say music and entertainment? So the kid plays that guitar and he gets really good at it and he wants more. Now that he's good at it, he wants everybody to listen. Now that he's got everybody listening, he can do the bars. Now that he's doing the bars, he wants the recording. And some of them make it up into that level of stardom. Guess what? The stars are miserable people. It's well
yeah,
known in
it's true.
Hollywood that almost all of the stars of Hollywood have a tragic ending, either through alcoholism or through bad relationships or whatever like that. And the last one that I've seen is Danny DeVito. He was at the top of his world at one time, and now he's a nothing, and he's miserable at it. Okay, so this is how we do it. We do it with all kinds of things. We do it with stardom. We do it with sex. We do it with music. We do it with how about farming? Is the farm big enough, or do you want a bigger farm? Is the tractor we have good enough, or do we want a bigger tractor? Is the seed we're planting good enough, or do you want better seed? And now we've got Monsanto in our pocket, and maybe John Deere. And we wind up, because we wanted a better and better and bigger farm, we wind up being more miserable because we're never satisfied. And now again, we come to Buddhism with that same duality mindset. And I want more. And so that, in fact, to be honest with you, was exactly the state that the Buddha was in. We could almost say that everybody who was on a spiritual path, just like everybody on an ordinary path, the spiritual path people are in that duality of wanting more, wanting more, wanting more. The Buddha, when he was Bodhisattva, when he was yet to become enlightened, look how hard he worked. Look how hard he tried. He almost killed himself with austerities. And that was the wake up. How many of you is it going to take to wake up to the more you work, the harder you strive, you might get to the point of striving so hard that you're about to kill yourself. When are you going to quit? When are you going to give up? The answer is that when we give up that duality of wanting more and good and whatnot. So that's why the Buddha came back to that the first jhana is good enough. The first jhana is good enough. So let's talk about what the first jhana is. We've already mentioned sukha. Basically, the first jhana is getting all four states of the Satipatthana, our foundation, good enough to where the body is comfortable enough. It's not getting laid. It's not on a trampoline. It's not on the high bar. It's just sitting there feeling good enough. The mind state.
I have a question.
Yes, go right ahead, Scott.
So like people have different like definitions of first jhana, or like can you be walking and be in first jhana?
Certainly. That's why we
Okay,
have
yeah, that's what
walking
I thought.
meditation. Yes, you can.
I'm much better at walking meditation.
All right.
I
You
feel
can
I
also
feel good.
be talking while you're in first jhana.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
because some people teach jhanas like, oh, you have to be gone to the world and completely sitting and just that's
Well,
jhana, some kind of like deep state, you know?
deep, right? That's the word.
Yeah,
You
deep.
gotta work so that you can go deep. Okay, those are the people that are
Yeah.
stuck in that duality. They're wanting to get higher and they're not willing to be satisfied with the middle path. So what is the first jhana? Is that it's satisfying. Remember that the Buddha only taught one thing with this middle path, and that is dukkha, dukkha nirodha. To get rid of our dissatisfaction means we come into a state of satisfaction. And we need to practice that because we have been stuck in this duality of right and wrong, good and bad, and better and super good, and all of that. We've been stuck in that place. And so the mind eventually returns to that state that, in fact, as soon as the beginner gets the first jhana, he'll say, well, this is not good enough. Yeah, I feel satisfied, but I'm not satisfied enough. And so he goes immediately back into, I'm not satisfied. In fact, for a moment, he was satisfied, but it wasn't good enough because his mind is stuck in that duality of getting the higher, the better, etc. So the important point about the first jhana is that it can be maintained, it can be sustained, that we apply the mind to the wholesome, we apply the mind to being satisfied, happy, good enough, everything is hunky-dory. I don't know what Dory would have to say about that, but you know what I mean. Everything is hunky-dory, everything is okay, not a problem in the world. That's the state of the first jhana, to where there's no problem. We come out of our dissatisfaction into a state of satisfaction. You could almost say that it's a neutral place. It's someplace in the middle. What is in the middle? The middle is between looking for this higher and higher good versus being disappointed because we never get that higher good. So the first jhana is what the Buddha says, this is the state, that middle place where we can feel okay, feel good, feel safe, feel secure, feel comfortable and satisfied. And we begin to change the attitude of, I can do this. I can do this. I can stay safe and secure and comfortable and satisfied. All I have to do is remember to be safe, secure, satisfied. Let's practice being safe and secure and satisfied. And then we bring in that extra ingredient of I am successful because I can be safe and secure and comfortable and satisfied. Then, in fact, we kind of become wealthy with the Dhamma because we're safe and secure and comfortable and satisfied all the time. We can come on to these Dhamma talks that we have, the one-on-ones or the group calls that we have now, and be in that state of being safe and secure and comfortable and satisfied. This is good enough. Wow, this is great. Wow. But that wowness does not last. The example would be over the years, Mount Everest has become a tourist destination. And as the snow melts, they find more and more bodies of people who didn't make it to the top. But guess what? Those people who did make it all the way to the top of Mount Everest, how long did they stay there? A couple of years? Ivan, how long do those mountaineers stay at the top of Mount Everest?
A few days. I don't know.
No, they don't. They don't even spend overnight. In fact, they get up early in the morning to trek up there so that they can trek back down in the afternoon. Nobody has been able to survive overnight on Mount Everest. If you think of that, then you can think of whatever your highest good is always temporary. Even pity is always temporary. You can't last. Buddhadasa talks about this. The Buddha mentioned it a bit also. that you can't stay at that highest place because you're not prepared for it.
Yeah.
So what do we do then is that we visit that piti state in the first jhana. That in fact you could say that the piti is the key to going into the second jhana, because you feel so good that you stop talking yourself into feeling good. Let me explain that again. If you start practicing the first jhana, you can get occasionally into the state of feeling so good that you now change your focus from talking yourself into feeling good into just the experience of feeling good. That feeling good then means that we stop talking about it. We just experience it, but it doesn't last. Then in fact we can do one of two things. One is we can go to the third jhana, which means that piti softens back up again and there's only into that state of sukha. Or we can come back to the first jhana where we start talking again, but we still have that state of sukha, but the piti is a peak point that doesn't last. So if we can understand that, then let's understand that the Buddha was absolutely correct. Let's get that mind state into a state of satisfaction, into the state of safety, secure, and comfortable, and that's all there is to it. Wanting more than that will give you a crash landing. That when the Buddha finally, or when he first started talking about the middle path, a lot of people think that he's talking about the middle path between the brothel and the beating. That you go to the brothel and you wind up getting a beating. Okay, those are the two extremes. We think of it as the middle path then as ordinary dukkha, dissatisfaction, versus the highest satisfaction, to where the actual middle point then would be this first jhana. The first jhana is the middle point, because anything less than the first jhana is in fact dukkha. So if we can find this place of being in the middle path, in the middle point, let's enjoy that. Wow, this is good enough. It's not blissed out. It's not over the moon. It's not over anything. It's just good enough. And that's the state that we can maintain. We can maintain that. So let's start to practice that. That's all there really is to it, is being free from dissatisfaction without wanting more and more and more and more. So, Ivan, what do you think?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Because yeah, I notice maybe I might had sometime desire the pity to last more than it should, and that's where yeah, I think that's my problem. And yeah.
So you become dissatisfied with the pity. Where is your next location? What's your next stopping point? Oh, I want more. Now you're back into being disappointed again.
Yes, yes.
Yes. Yeah, fell off the ladder. What's the difference between wanting these higher jobs? Pussy. Isn't it the same thing? It's the same desire. It's the wanting what you don't have.
Mm.
So the dukkha is always the same dukkha. It doesn't matter how we got ourselves into a state of dukkha. What matters is that we got ourselves into a state of dissatisfaction, because whatever was happening right now was not good enough. It wasn't the highest good. It wasn't sunam bunam. That, in fact, another statement, in fact, I've had conversations with Dhammarato and others on this about love. You know, the Beatles had a song, All You Need Is Love. How many of you know the history of the Beatles? They have all the love, okay? So all they needed was love, but was it? No.
No, it's
Go ahead.
never happy. It's never happy ever after, like they said it's gonna be in the
Yeah, it
movies.
never was ever after. You're right, it's not happy after.
Yeah, people they start fighting. They realize that the person that is supposed to complete them doesn't make them happy. And then what? now you're miserable.
Uh-huh. So when they said all we need is love, they were wrong. I've seen somebody just recently say that his girlfriend is very miserable and unhappy and is thinking about killing herself. And this guy on Discord says, tell her that she deserves love. If you tell me when I'm depressed that I deserve love, where's my pistol? I'm going to do it now. All right. So, in fact, an important point that we can make is that nobody deserves love. But guess what? Love also is at that highest good. It's a duality, love and not love. The reality is that we don't need love. We can just be okay whether we have love or not. Love is not important. Not the way that the Beatles said. All you need is love winds up making them miserable. Why all you need is love means that it's the highest good. So look at all of these highest goods that we've been talking about. How about Jhana, highest good? How about talking with God, highest good, especially if he talks back? Except that I know a place that if God talks back to you, they'll lock you up. It's crazy talk, because God don't talk back, but they want him to talk back. I've been praying for 35 years and you've never answered me one time. So they were searching for the good. They were searching for God, and they wind up being in what they refer to in Christianity as the dark night of the soul. They crash landed because they didn't get what they wanted, and they wanted the highest good. So look at it: sports, music, sex, love, money, power, whatever that we put on to this idea of this is really, really good stuff is the highest good. Even that's true with food. Look at French chefs and cooking schools and all of that kind of stuff, and having contests. And you had 30 people that are in the contest, and one person made the best dish, and that means that you've got 29 people who were disappointed. But then next time somebody says, oh, you might have won that contest, but I don't like your food, and now he's disappointed. And so wanting the best, wanting the highest good is always going to disappoint you. Let's find the middle path. Dhammarato, do you have anything to say about this?
This has been one of my favorite talks. I really like what you said. It makes a lot of sense.
Well, I've been saying this for 5 years or 7 years now, but
Yeah, it's kind of you're kind of like a broken record, Dhammarato. You've been saying the same thing over and over again.
yeah, but someday it's going to get through to you, huh?
Yeah.
That in fact, a lot of
No,
people
I'm
can
just
listen
kidding.
to exactly what I've been saying and say, yeah, Dhammarato's got the very best stuff. Let's go get it. Rah, 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 rah. And then the door's locked. So that's the whole point is that we don't need to have the very best. What we need to do is to become satisfied. someplace in that middle path. We're not going to get the best, but guess what? The best is at best overrated. In reality, it's impossible. You'll never get it. You'll always wind up being disappointed because you don't get the very best. Even Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, wow, is he an unhappy dude. We got any happy dudes here? Anybody just satisfied? Everything's good enough? That's what we're looking for. Yeah, it's
Good enough.
good enough. That's
Nothing
what we need
special.
to practice. Nothing special about it. Just, wow, this is just nice. Wow, this is good enough. Whew. Well, I can sit here and talk about how nice it is. Being in First Jhana, there's nothing to it. Everything is okay. Everything is fine. Not a worry in the world. This is where we need to find is that middle place, that middle ground. And the only way that we lose that middle ground is by trying too hard to get something better, wind up crash landing because we didn't get it. It wasn't good enough. So, Philly, do you have something to say?
Not particularly, but I thought that was really good. And I guess I do have a question. I mean, when you get to first jhana and you notice yourself not being satisfied, you notice a part of yourself that's like, oh, I want more. I want to go to the next one. Like,
So
what do you
guess
do
what?
with that part?
That's proof enough you're not in First Jhana.
Hmm.
You may have been in First Jhana when you says, wow, this is nice. But then when you say, well, I want more than this, now you've lost it. You're back into ordinary mind state again.
Hmm.
One thought is all you needed to lose that jhana. So, Rick, do you have something to say?
It's just spot on. Like, it's just spot on. Like, wanting
Right.
more is
Spot on, like right in the middle.
yeah, it's just spot on. How long do you have to climb the ladder to see that it leads literally nowhere? You just keep climbing, and
Or you
you'll
fall
be
off the
very
ladder.
unsatisfied. Or you fall off the ladder, even worse. Yeah.
So, okie dokie, what do you think, huh?
It was very good, Dhammarato. I just have a question because sometimes I see like the concept of highest good as it's the same as utopia, I guess, which is like an illusion. But sometimes I feel like utopias serve to inspire, like maybe give some direction. But it's like the meta prayer, like you say, like actually saying the meta prayer doesn't help is the fact that you need to be okay right now, not really wishing someone love or anything. So I guess it works the same, right? Like the highest good, um, the utopia, and all these concepts are just illusions, and the work that needs to be done is feeling okay right now, I think. Satisfied right now.
Yes. Be satisfied right
Okay.
now. Excellent. So, CB, what do you think? I'll say CB, Christy.
No, it's a good talk. The neighbors just finished up the fireworks, but I heard every word, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. So, does anybody have any parting words? Let's just, we've had enough now. Enough of good enough.
I remember I was talking to you one time, Dhammarato, and I said something about I just need to lower the bar for happiness. and then you told me just get rid of the bar entirely. And then I thought that was great. That really hit me. Like that really made it click for me. It just get rid of the rules we have for like why not to be happy, right? And we could just be happy right now.
Exactly. It
Good enough.
isn't, in fact, the rules, the whole idea of the rules. The point about the rules is to see the two extremes, that this is good and this is bad. That's what rules are all about. In other words, in order to reach this middle path, it's best just to forget about the rules. The rules are not important. The rules are what make you miserable. The rules set your standards that you can't meet, and so you feel bad because you can't meet up to your own standards, your own rules. And where do those rules come from? It comes from this duality that we've had of what is the really, really best, what's really great, what's the absolute hunky-dory best thing there is. I don't know. But everybody's out looking for it, and look how disappointed they all are. Yeah, so let's drop these rules. Let's drop the bar. Let's just be okay. The way things are, good enough. Not a problem in the world. Because getting the very best is quite a problem, isn't it? All right. So, anybody else?
One last thing, Dhammarato. I mean, the Buddha did try to search for it to begin with, like if he was.
A better job than you've done. He really, really, really went after it, didn't he?
I mean, if he was just satisfied in his kingdom, we wouldn't have the Dhamma, right? I don't know.
If he'd have been satisfied, he'd have never been on a path. The fact is, though, is that everybody is dissatisfied. Princes, kings, ministers, paupers, everybody has this duality of the very best and the very least. And so searching for the very best is always disappointing. And he searched for the very best. He found the very best. And he was still disappointed. It wasn't good enough. Wasn't good enough. So he started to do the austerities. He came to the point of almost killing himself. He was better at the austerities than anybody else. The very best one. So good at it, he almost killed himself. I'm glad he didn't. I'm glad he finally woke up. We got to stop the war, stop the fight, stop climbing some magical mountain. And just be satisfied with the way things are. Good enough. Everything is fine. So, if everybody is satisfied with this talk, Mikey, we'll leave it to you. Can you crash this plane?
Oh, yeah. I'd say this talk was good enough. Maybe even worth listening to again. And so, yeah, maybe you guys can do a little bit of that. Go play around on the YouTube channel or on Spotify and iTunes and go listen to some of the older talks. We've been having some people, like our good friend Timo, they'll even write down timestamps and put them in the YouTube comments. That's a really great way to volunteer. That's easy to do. And whenever I see those, I add them to the video. Yeah, another thing you can do is subscribe to our YouTube channel, leave a comment, leave a like, share this lovely Dhamma. And also, be sure
You'd be
to...
very satisfied if you start making some comments and start putting some likes on our damn videos.
But we're satisfied without it too. It's okay. But yeah, we've been seeing more and more people.
More likes, more
Yeah.
views.
More likes,
Views
more
aren't
likes, more
good
views.
enough.
yeah, we've also been having people just join here on Discord in our Hangout channel. In fact, I'll show it in the video here. We're in the Hangout channel on Discord. And you can join anytime. You don't have to wait for a scheduled Sangha call. And I've been seeing people just join, and then shortly after, someone else will join them, and they'll get a Dhamma talk going. And sometimes those Hangout sessions will go for several hours on end. So yeah, come make some friends, come hang out, and just take it easy. And remember, this is good enough. And enjoy a big, beautiful breath right now. All right. Take care, friends.
Thank you all. Thank you all for coming. Wow, this has
Bye-bye.
been enough. This has been really good enough. Just good enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dhammarato.